Well, all right, let's do it. What's up guys, David Moss Jr. here, and behind me is the brand new and improved Sweat Tent Sauna. You're gonna notice I have a couple stacks of boxes because I wanna talk about what comes with the Sweat Tent Sauna. We're gonna set this up, but I also wanna talk about a few accessories to really take that sauna experience and optimize it. I wanna make sure that you have the best experience ever if you do decide to purchase yourself a Sweat Tent Sauna. Now here's a crazy quick story. Back in July of 2023, a company called Sweat Tent reached out to me, just little old me, and they sent me one of their first ever sweat tents. I still have that tent today. I posted a review of it back then. A ton of people have watched it, and from what I know of, close to 1,000 people have actually purchased the Sweat Tent Sauna using my discount code, which I will have down in the description below. And I still have that sauna and it still works like a champ, which is absolutely amazing. I've never even really taken it down and put it away. It's currently at my in-laws' house because they wanted a sauna and I decided I'm gonna gift it to them since Sweat Tent decided to send me their newest one. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna set up the Sweat Tent Sauna. I'm gonna do a full review and overview of all of the new stuff you need to know to help you decide if the Sweat Tent is something you should consider for yourself or not. So this box is gonna be the new stove, and I heard the new stove had quite a few improvements. I'm excited to actually see it because apparently it does look a little different than the one already used. Ooh, that's pretty. All right, so when you open up the stove box, you're gonna get yourself the instruction manual. What I do like about this instruction manual is it's not made of paper. So I'm assuming if it gets wet, it's not gonna deteriorate and you're gonna be left on your own in the woods. You do get your Sauna Rocks box so that you can create steam. You get your portable bag, and then here's the stove, and wow, it does look so pretty. Okay, that is a beautiful powder-coated steel sauna stove. Wow. Crazy thing about this stove is this can reach temperatures of over 200 degrees. On the website it says 200. Every single time I've ever used my Sweat Tent Sauna, I've always been able to get the temperature over 200. Now it also depends on where you put your thermometer, but let me tell you, it gets hot. A few things to note about the stove is it looks like it's supposed to go like this, but actually underneath, you're gonna have some legs that fold out. And yep, they've made some amazing improvements to the legs. If you made the same mistakes I made in the past, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And maybe you're watching this video and you have an original sweat tent and you wanna see if it's worth making an upgrade. Well, I can tell you, I've messed up the legs on my original sweat tent a few times and it was all user error. So the front here, they've actually, it looks like they've carved in the Sweat Tent name, which is nice. This is improved. Man, that's so nice. It's so cool when you get to play around with products when they first come out, and then when they make their improvements, you get to play around with the new products. So thank you, Sweat Tent, for sending me this and for being a good partner with me for such a long time. Inside your stove is where you're gonna have your gloves. This is your ashtray. This is what's gonna catch the ash. That's really the only thing you need to clean out. You don't necessarily have to clean out the stove too often. I'll give you some of those tips that I personally do to keep my sweat tent running and operating at its best. But as long as you keep the ashtray nice and clean and start to push the ash down into the ashtray as it starts to build up here in the stove, I've never had an issue with airflow, and I've always been able to start a fire really quickly. Inside here where this foam is actually where more of your accessories are gonna be. Sometimes people will open this whole thing up and they're like, wait, where is everything else? It's actually inside your stove. So in the ashtray you saw, we have our glove, we have our fire poker here, we have our handles that we're gonna install onto our stove to make it easier to open. And then inside here is where your chimney is actually gonna be. So we'll pull all that out in a second. Let's go ahead and open up the actual tent. Boom. Portable bag. The entire sweat tent is in here. Here's a couple things I found out when I first started actually taking my sweat tent with me places. This stove weighs 65 pounds. So once you have the stove and you have the chimney and all that stuff, when you're taking this with you, which you're gonna wanna put it in this easy to carry portable bag, weighs 65 pounds. So it's a little bit heavy. So if you are going on like a hike and you wanna take this somewhere crazy, just know that it is gonna weigh 65 pounds. This entire sweat tent, pop-up tent that you're gonna be using to get inside weighs 30 pounds. So it's really light, really easy to carry with you. And then this is your carrying bag. Throw it over your shoulder, you just carry it with you. And then you have your sweat tent. Now let's open it up and set it up. Man, the bag's even gotten nicer. It's like a full-blown weatherproof bag. Like this is a bag you could use to travel if you didn't bring your sweat tent with you and you needed a nice big bag. Yeah, I heard that they changed the actual material. It's the same material, just a little more hardy. It's insulated really well. They use like a different material on the inside. So a lot of people in the beginning were concerned with like, when you heat this thing up, is there gonna be any off-gassing? I would definitely recommend just with anything, it's like washing a cup before you use it when you buy it from the store. I would fire up the stove outside of the tent for the very first time. Let it burn off anything that it's gonna burn off, because that is gonna happen. Don't put it inside your tent for the very first time when you heat it up. But after that very first time, heat it up outside, let it get fired up. Once it cools off, put it in your tent and enjoy it. You don't have to do that ever again. But then what I would also recommend doing is maybe your second burn when you put your stove back inside your tent is just do a second burn without yourself getting in there. I don't believe there's anything that's gonna come off. It's an Oxford 210D material, so it is a material that's meant for this high heat, that's meant for this. It's weatherproof, which is awesome. It also comes with a waterproof roof now too, which is even better. Like they're just constantly making this thing better. But that's just my recommendation. Let's go ahead and get this thing fully opened up. I gotta tell you this. So another really funny thing, and this is gonna be a video where I'm gonna share some things. If you watched my original video of me actually reviewing the Sweat Tent back over a year ago, you remember the very beginning when I set this thing up, I kind of did like a time lapse. I put the whole thing together inside out. Don't even know how I did it. I guess I saw it like this and I was like, oh, okay. I just started spreading everything. I put the entire thing together inside out. So these poles are supposed to be on the inside, and it's very easy if you've ever put a tent together before, like I have, and I don't know why it seems so hard. You literally just set it down, grab one side, pull it, flip it up. Once you get two, the rest becomes easy. There we go, you got three. Probably should do the roof first, but I'm gonna do this side because it just seems fun. Woo! All right, so now I'm gonna go inside and pop that roof open. It is so nice. Sweat tent, well done. We got a lot to talk about. This is awesome. So this is the outside, and at first glance, you're gonna be like, well, where's the windows? Well, here's the cool thing. All of this material is heavily insulated and it's weatherproof. So if you do take this somewhere, you do live somewhere where it snows and you need that extra insulation because you don't really care about seeing outside, you just wanna make sure that the inside is as hot as possible. This right here is a window, the Velcro's on and off. So you can literally keep this Velcroed on for extra insulation to really heat this thing up in the wintertime. But I live in Florida, so I'm just gonna take this off, and you have a full, half the sauna has these windows. You got one on the corner there, and you got one on the side over here. A couple things while I'm walking around is all of these little points are considered anchor points. So it does come with some anchors. You can anchor down the sides. There's an anchor point up on the roof if you're under some trees and you just want to make sure it doesn't blow away if you're in a heavy wind area. It does have two doors, which Velcro's open. So when you do want to let all of the air out, you have a door on both sides. This is an upgrade. This is a glow-in-the-dark zipper, which it can get dark inside there. There's no lights or anything. There's no electricity needed. This backside is another window that you can also double as another vent if you'd like to vent it out. And this one, you just roll it up and you just connect it here for that extra visibility out the back. Once again, it's kind of cool depending on where you have this thing, you have different visibility. Another anchor point on all four corners. There's an anchor point. There's an anchor point on all the other corners. There's so many anchor points on this thing. Up here, literally all over the place. There's also anchor points here at the bottom on the skirt. So this skirt goes on the outside, and that's just gonna help keep water and everything from making its way easily under the tent. And it's pretty effective at that. This backside here, this is where your stove's gonna go. So this is where the air vents are. So this is gonna put fresh air in there. And then you also have a vent down here at the bottom. And then this is the front. Now let's take a tour inside. So just like the outside, you have a skirt on the inside. So you have a skirt on the outside and the inside. And once again, keep the elements outside. And it does a really good job of that. Inside, you'll see all these poles. These are made out of a fiberglass, so they do not get hot. However, these little metal pockets, whatever you would call these things, those can get a little bit hot. Just, you know, it's a sauna. Metal things get hot inside a sauna. If you're looking at this, you notice the color inside has changed from the original. Just because they've upgraded the material and it's even more insulated and even more durable, which is great. And then down here where the actual stove goes, they've added an extra layer of protection. Because in the very beginning, some people were reporting back that if the stove got a little too hot, because this is where your stove's gonna go, the actual material around, not even the material, but more of like the stitching, sometimes would burn. You're not gonna have that problem in this one, which is really cool. They've really done a great job elevating all the material and just making this even better. Now this window over time will clear up. This is just from it being packaged in here. You can already see some of that stuff coming off, but you'll have pretty clear visibility and tons of room. Inside this thing, it's perfectly square and it's 6 foot by 6 foot. And then from the very middle to the top is 7 foot tall. I'll show you this. I'm 6'1", and I can walk around this entire thing. Because the center goes up at such a good angle, I've got plenty of room to walk around in here. And I know it's rated for 4 people, but we've had way more than 4 people in our sweat tent. It's basically as many people as you comfortably and safely want to put in this thing. And that's one of the accessories I would recommend getting is their cedar bench. I would actually recommend getting 2 of them. If you get 2 of them, you can create a really nice L on the opposite side of the stove, and I'll show you all that later on in the video, how I set these things up. I'm really excited. This is nice. It's really cool to see companies that get started out, have a great product, and just make it better. So Sweat Tent, well done. I'm seeing a lot of things that you guys have made improvements on that we're gonna talk about in this video. So So stick around for sure, you'll be excited. There are a few things that come inside your tent bag which you're gonna wanna take note of. Depending on where you're gonna set this thing up, it does come with a bag of stakes and some rope so that you can stake it into the ground, keep it nice and secure. If you're gonna set it up anywhere that's kind of out in the open and a little windy, you're gonna definitely wanna stake it down. It is a very lightweight tent and it is subject to wind blowing it over, and you don't want that to happen, so just stake it down, be safe. The next thing is your instruction manual. This will go over how to set everything up perfectly so you can have it all set up correctly and safely. It's gonna go through how to stake it, how you actually use the next part, which this is gonna be your actual chimney hole that you're gonna put on the top. It Velcros right on to the roof. I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna show you how to put on your rain cover, which is great. And then once again, how to put your stove in and then the safety around that. But this is your operating instructions. So if you're new to this, if you're new to saunas, read this safety first, okay? And then like I said, we're gonna set this thing up here right now. So I'm gonna have it set up where the window is on the front and the door, the main door, the entry door is gonna be on the front. You do have 2 entries, which is great. You can zip up one of them. You can obviously zip up both of them when you're keeping the heat in. But over here on the side that your stove's gonna be on is another insulated top. So if you do wanna just use this as a tent for any reason, you sure can. But we're gonna use it as a sauna tent because it's the Sweat Tent Sauna. So we're gonna take this piece off, this Velcro piece off, and we're gonna throw it off to the side. Then we're gonna take the hole, which our chimney is gonna poke through, and the chimney will stick up once it's fully installed. It'll stick up about 2 feet out of the tent. So just keep that in mind if you're setting this up somewhere where there's some low-hanging trees. So I always like to find the top and get that Velcro lined up as good as possible. Get that on there. You might need a little step stool or ladder, depending on your height. Pull it nice and tight and get it nice and tight onto the Velcro there. Once you put the rain cover on, this is going to seal just a little bit more, so you don't have to worry about it being absolutely perfect. If you don't want to use the rain cover, which I recommend you do, unless you're gonna take it down a bunch. If you're gonna take it somewhere for a couple days, no rain, and that's it, you don't really need the rain cover. But if you plan on keeping this set up, like a lot of people have purchased this, keep it at their house somewhere where they plan on just keeping it up for a long time, and there might be some rain, just to protect the top of this thing and to protect your sweat tent, definitely use that rain cover. It's really nice. Another thing I just noticed is they added an additional layer of material on the corners here. So that'll help keep this thing nice and hardy and sturdy for a long time. And now it's probably the best time to go ahead and set up my stove and burn it for the first time. So we're gonna pull all of our chimney pieces out. Take note that the top chimney piece is gonna look like a cheese grater, like that. So this is the top. That should be the very last piece we have on this thing. And you should have 5 pieces. We're just gonna put them right there into the top, and they made it a little tighter too, which is nice. Not that it was ever a problem. So each piece just slides into the next. Little tip, when you're putting this thing on the actual sweat tent, I like to put it in the tent, line this up with the hole inside, and then go from either the outside or even from the inside and just slide it through the hole, so I don't have to try to figure out how to put the top piece on when I have this thing inside the tent. Once we've got our stove built, part of the seasoning process, that's what I'm gonna call it here, is we wanna season our actual basket as well, because it's obviously made out of a nice metal material, and we want to make sure there's no off-gassing or anything like that. Once again, this is all kind of like just a safety measure, but definitely recommend just doing this for the first burn. So let's do it. Very easy to build. I remember the first one they sent me, you had to like use a screwdriver and it was not fun. Now you just put this whole thing together with these little hand twists. So you just untwist these little things right here, these little nuts, just a little bit, and then you slide them into this metal, these little holes. Literally just slides right in, boom. Lock it in and you're good to go. You set this right on the back side of the stove. I'll show you exactly where you want to put it. All right, cool, let's go. And there we have it, beautiful. So this will go right here on the back of the stove, just sits right there. And this thing will actually get hot. This goes right here on the back of the stove, and then this thing will actually get hot as the stove gets hot, and it'll heat up the rocks. And what you're gonna wanna do to really just optimize your sauna experience is have the bucket and ladle, which is an option I would recommend, is you're gonna wanna have a bucket and ladle, and I'll show you exactly how to do that later on in this video. But you fill that up with water, you can put some essential oils, some eucalyptus oil is always nice. There's a couple different ones that people like to use. Put that in the water, and then once the rocks get nice and hot, you take that ladle and you just pour a little bit of water over the rocks, and it creates a really intense steam in that sauna, and it just feels amazing. It's a feeling that you definitely are gonna wanna experience. All right, let's season this thing. Oh wait, I almost forgot the rocks. Built this whole thing and forgot the rocks, man. So it's kind of like Tetris, just put them in, however you want. It really doesn't matter. You wanna have some gaps in there where the rocks can get nice and hot, stack them on top of each other, boom shakalaka. Time to season this thing. So I'm about to jump on a podcast with Michael Coomer, who's awesome. He's also a YouTuber, really cool guy. What you want to do is have your stove about 10 feet away from anything. It's out here on the sport court, so it's not really next to anything. I found a little hack. I live in Florida, so buying firewood is very difficult. They don't always have it. Normally it's available like 2 months out of the year. But I found that if I use these goofy little like interior fire logs, it still works. Not sure it's the best, but I mean, it works when I can't buy firewood. The cool thing is Sweat Tent also sells firewood. They sell a really good quality European birch wood that burns really, really nice. If you want to get wood, if you're in the same pickle as I am, that's probably a good idea. But if you also want to try this hack, it works too. Start with one log, open up the front of the stove. You'll notice down here, this little ashtray is also an air vent. So you can close it off, which will choke out your fire. Open it up, which will let it just burn, and that's what we're gonna do. So we'll go ahead and set this thing inside our stove and just light her up. The cool thing is it creates a nice little safety net from the wind naturally, and I'm gonna let it season while I'm on this podcast. All right, it's on. Cool thing is too, you got this nice little thick viewing glass so you can see how your flame's doing while you're not, fiddling around inside there. So we've got our stove seasoning, everything's put together except for the accessories, which we're gonna talk about. But in this section of the video, I do wanna go ahead and talk about some of the stats and maybe some of the accessories you're probably gonna want to consider. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is gonna be the specs, and we're gonna talk about the price. So this thing is only $15.99, and that comes with this beautiful portable pop-up tent, all the bags you saw, the stove with the carrying case, the rock basket and the 20 pounds of rocks, glove we saw, and then there's a wooden thermometer as well. It also comes with that waterproof roof cover and the instruction manual. So you're gonna get everything you need to have a really enjoyable sauna experience. The accessories you're probably gonna wanna consider are definitely gonna be one, maybe two of those cedar benches, and they're only $200 each and they fold up nice and flat, so they're also very easy to take with you. The second accessory I would say you'd have to consider is gonna be the bucket and ladle. Sweat Tent sells that package for 69 bucks. And it's just a really nice accessory if you plan on pouring water over the rocks, which if you're getting the sauna, you definitely have to experience. And then the third accessory I would have to recommend is gonna be the sauna hats. The wool sauna hat's really nice. You wanna wear that because your head is like the thermometer of your body. It tells your body, hey, we're hot and we gotta get out of here, even when your body can handle a little bit longer. If you wanna really elongate the experience of being inside the sauna, wearing one of those goofy looking wool sauna hats is definitely a high recommendation. The cool thing too is you can save some money by using the link down in the description below or just popping in discount code MOSS100. That'll save you some money off of the Sweat Tent, the accessories, or the Sweat Tent XL. And that's another thing to maybe consider. If you like the portable sauna, but you're considering maybe you want more people, they have a Sweat Tent XL, which I've also reviewed, and that is a 10-foot by 10-foot sauna. So much room for activities, so much room for people. If you want to have a sauna party, that's the one to get. That sauna is $24.99, but you can save a ton of money by once again using the link down in the description below. I mentioned it earlier, but we're gonna talk about just the specs of this. So it is 6 foot by 6 foot, it's a perfect square, and it's 7 foot tall. That sauna chimney, as you can see, sticks up 2 feet out of the sauna. So once again, if you're gonna put it under some trees, or you're gonna put it under a patio, which I don't recommend doing that, you're gonna have to account for the sauna chimney, and there is gonna be a lot of heat and sometimes some smoke and ash coming out of that, depending on the wood you're burning. There's no electricity needed. You can take this thing absolutely anywhere you wanna go. All you need is some wood and a lighter, and you can fire this thing up and get it over 200 degrees in around 30 minutes. I live in Florida, so my sauna experience is different than most. It's always hot here, so I can put some wood in this thing and have it fired up for 15 minutes and be over 200 degrees. But depending on where you live, you should easily be able to get this sauna over 200 degrees because it is a heavily insulated sauna tent meant for this. And last but not least, Sweat Tent does give you a full 1-year warranty. And now while my stove is seasoning, I'm gonna run inside, jump on this podcast, and then we're gonna come out, turn this thing on, and get our first sweat on. Let's go. Fire's out. That means our stove is seasoned. It's totally fine. I will say this, always better to use wood. These little fire logs that you can get that you're supposed to just put into a fireplace in your house, I found that they work and they work fine, but wood is just a little better. If you want to get your temperature hotter, if you want to really have a little bit more control of your temperature, obviously using different size pieces of wood are going to be the best recommendation for sure. But I just wanted to show that you can just use those little fire logs. They have 2-hour and 4-hour and different options and all that fun stuff, and they work. But hey, anyway, the stove is seasoned, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break down the chimney, take the rocks off, I'm gonna throw it in, line it up with the hole, and we're gonna actually fire this thing up and get our first sweat on. Let's go. I always wanna wait for everything to cool down before you do this, because everything will be hot. I'll leave that bottom one in. Save me a step. You good, bro? Oh, man. So they made this hole a little tighter, which is great. It means less water can get in there. So you are gonna wanna put this on as the last step. All right, my friends, well, now's the time. We're gonna go fire this thing up with one of these goofy little logs. We're gonna get it nice and hot. We're gonna have our first session in the new Sweat Tent, and we're gonna talk about it. Let's go do it. This is how easy it is to start one of these things. No electricity needed. get a fire starter and some logs, or one of these goofy little logs. I keep calling this a goofy little log, but it works. And you just start it up. We're gonna shut this off, keep us nice and safe. We're gonna make sure that we got some oxygen flowing. Right, Wyatt? Come in here, bud. You can come sit on the bench.
Okay.
All right, so you see this vent right here?
Yeah.
You feel there's fresh air flowing in there? So this fresh air, this fresh oxygen is gonna come in this vent right here. That's why you don't wanna shut that off, and it's gonna feed the fire. So this right here, you close it and it chokes your fire out, or you open it and it helps your fire burn. So you need the oxygen to flow so that it catches the fire and helps your fire burn, which will heat up your stove and heat up your sweat tent.
This feels nice.
It does feel nice. Now, the reason you would ever want to close that is when you're done and you're ready to completely turn off your sweat tent, because there is no on-off switch, right? So what you'll do is you'll choke the fire by shutting this vent down. You can shut that vent down and you can eliminate the oxygen, so that'll help choke the fire out. Or you can just use a spray bottle, a bottle of water, or just let it burn out on its own. These things are really self-contained, and from what I've experienced, extremely safe. The only rule is, what's the one rule in here? You never touch this stove, right?
Yeah.
What happens if you touch this stove?
It will burn your skin.
It will burn your skin, and we don't want to do that, right? So whenever we come in the sweat tent, we got to be very careful, and we got to come and sit right down on the bench, right? We don't want to sit down on the fire poker though, right? Remember Ava sat down on that and burned her little butt? What would we use this fire poker for? For poking the fire. So you would use this. You could actually, what I've used this for, when it gets hot, if I don't have my glove handy, if kids do come in the sweat tent and you want them to enjoy it with you, just have them sit on the floor, because it's a lot less hot down low. Obviously heat rises, but it's true. And when you get a sweat tent, you'll realize that it's a little cooler at the floor. And my dog comes in here, kids will come in and they'll sit on the ground. And then adults, or people who really want that heat, they'll just stand up, because all the heat is really at the top. It's really cool because all the extreme heat is at the top. So there we go. We're gonna let this fire up real quick. We're gonna shut the door so it gets nice and hot, Wyatt.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a little sweat session. What do you think about that? So just so you know, that's 1 2-hour fire starter log. That's not gonna get this thing as hot as it's capable of getting. It's gonna get it nice and hot where we can have an enjoyable sauna experience. My son stayed home from school today with me, so he's gonna help me film. He's gonna help me finish and wrap up this video. And if you do decide you wanna get yourself a sweat tent, like I mentioned earlier in the video, there will be a link and a discount code down in the description below. The discount code is now MOSS100. Feel free to use that and share it with friends. If you know anybody who wants to get a portable sauna and experience a premium sauna heat at a not so premium price, which is pretty awesome, and that's one of the reasons I really love recommending the Sweat Tent Sauna. You know what, I just threw a second log in there because I do want to get this thing nice and hot. So 2 logs is really what you want to start with. 2 logs is the key. 1 log is going to help get you started. Throw a second log in there real quick. Throw a 3rd log in there if you really want to get this thing cranking and hot. Put whatever you can fit in there, but obviously make sure that your fire started before you start stacking logs in there. Get your stove nice and hot, create a hot environment. That's going to make it easier to keep your logs lit and allow new logs that you throw in there to fire up really fast and keep your heat at that high level that you're looking for. You should expect anywhere between 190 to 230 degree temperatures, depending on where you live, which is amazing. It's exactly what you're looking for when it comes to that premium traditional sauna experience. Now, I do want to also warn you that if you do decide to pour water on the rocks, when you do that while the temperature is over 190, it can really heat up your skin. It could get to dangerous levels. So just be really careful. Experiment with yourself before you do it with children or other people who've never saunaed before. Make sure that you know what temperature you want to have it at before you pour water on the rocks, because that steam can get really intense really fast. And I would recommend having that door halfway unzipped and ready to be fully unzipped when you do that. We'll explain that at the end of this video when we do it. But I just wanted to point that out because I want you to have the most enjoyable sauna experience ever. One thing you'll notice is there will be a little smoke coming out the chimney. That's pretty normal. Depending on the wood you use is gonna determine how thick and dark that smoke gets. If you do live in a neighborhood, well, sometimes neighbors may not enjoy seeing a bunch of smoke coming out of your chimney at night, or if they sleep with their windows open. So be mindful of that. But like I said, depending on the wood you use, you see this is pretty clear smoke. That's not gonna bother anybody. Okay, so I've let it run for about 30 minutes. It got really hot really fast. It's Florida and it's 85 degrees outside today. So it's a black tent in the sun. It's already gonna get hot. A couple things I noticed before I even open up this door and see what the temperature is, which I think is pretty hot, is whatever was on the viewing window, which is not glass, as you can see. Don't know what the exact material is, but it's obviously pretty heat resistant. Whatever was on there preventing it from being clear has burned off. And this is why you want to go ahead and let it all burn. I have all the accessories, everything's in there for this initial burn for a good 20-30 minutes. And then what we're gonna do is open up the door and just let some of the air out for another 5 minutes or so. Ooh, oh, it's hot. Woo.
Wow!
It's hot in there. It's hot in there. So we're gonna let it air out for a second. I would recommend opening up the back door as well and just letting all that air just kind of force itself in and out through both doors for a good 5-10 minutes or so. These little fire starter woods, I mean, they burn for 2 hours. I put 2 in there, and right now it's 220 degrees in here right now. That's insane, right? With 2 cheap logs from Publix from the grocery store. Oh man. All right, well, this is a very easy review for me to make because I've recommended the Sweat Tent Sauna for 1.5 years now. Since July of last year, when I first was introduced to the Sweat Tent, I've had hundreds of amazing nights and days in my Sweat Tent Sauna with many people. We've been able to fit as many as 8 people in the sauna, 4 people comfortably. Now this bench that you can get as an accessory, I definitely recommend getting 2. It's small enough to where what we do is we'll put one all the way into this corner, and then you can easily fit another one right here, and there's still plenty of room to come into the Sweat Tent. And it wraps you around the stove, so everybody gets really good heat. When you do it like that, if you get the same bench, it's all flat, so you can lay across it, you can elevate your feet, you can get completely above the actual stove, which is nice. I would say that anybody out there who's considering getting a sauna, and maybe you aren't in a stable residence where you plan on being there for 20-30 years and you want to invest, you know, the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a pretty permanent traditional sauna or even an infrared sauna. Once you have those up, it's not very easy to move them. I would recommend starting out with a Sweat Tent. You can get temperatures over 200 degrees easily, very affordably. So you can get this entire setup for $1,500, and that comes with the tent and the stove, the rocks, and everything that you really need to have an enjoyable experience. And yes, you can sit on the ground and you can build your own bench and you can do all these other things, but for a couple $100, getting their bench that actually folds up, put it on top of your car, put it on the back, it's very easy to move, which is awesome. But I would definitely encourage anybody considering starting out and getting a sauna and they want that extreme hot temperature sauna, try the Sweat Tent first. I mean, the cool thing about it is it's portable, and there's always going to be a market for a sauna like this. There's always going to be people who don't want to spend multi thousands of dollars, upwards of $10,000+ on a sauna. So it's a very easy sauna to enjoy, to operate, to maintain. There's really no maintenance on this thing. I don't know, the only maintenance is about, depending on how often you use it, maybe every 5 uses, I'll take the ashtray out and I'll go dump it out either in my compost, garden, or just in the yard. It's ash, so it's not bad. You don't have to throw it away. Actually, it's better if you don't throw it away and just put it into your yard or something like that. My chickens absolutely love the ash, so I'll put it in their coop too sometimes. But pouring water on the rocks is an amazing addition to just the already intense heat. I give the Sweat Tent Sauna a thumbs up. The new Sweat Tent Sauna, great improvements. I'm really impressed. I'm really grateful that they're taking what's already a great option and a great product and just making it better. So Sweat Tent, great job. If you want to get yourself Sweat Tent Sauna, link, discount code, all that stuff will be down in the description below. But other than that, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day, my friends, and God bless. But hey, before you go, I think you should definitely check out either this video or this video next. See, this video here, I think you'll like myself because you watched this video to the end, but this video, YouTube thinks you'll like. So click on one of these videos because one of these videos, I think, will be cool. Thanks, guys.